Turtle Logic and the University of Life. Chapter 8. The Talk. I walked into the building just a bit bewildered, disheveled, dirty, my mind in knots. I was clearly shaken. As I entered the hall, standing, wondering where to go next, I looked up, and there stood Arthur the Frog. "Are you having difficulty, sir?" he said to me. "No," I replied. "I just need to know where to go next." "Look at your list, sir," he continued. "If you ever need to know where to go, just consult the list. It will always have the information you require." I wanted to tell Arthur all about my experiences in the Valley of the Masters. I wanted to scream out, "Can you believe what just happened to me?" But I didn't. I just looked at my finely groomed frog that stood there in front of me and said, "Thank you." "Here, sir. You look hungry. Here is a sandwich and a bag of crisps," he said with his deep English accent of his. "Thank you," I said once again. I sat down in the chair there, on one of the many chairs that lined the wide hallway, and ate my turkey sandwich and, as Arthur had so eloquently put it, my bag of crisps. A few anxious moments passed with me sitting there pondering these frightening creatures from the valley. The beasts were so real, with their human-like hair, bad breath, and fragmented awkward movements. It took me a while to shake off the experience, but I did recover. I was safe now, after all, and the beasts were gone. There was more to learn here at the university, and I had to push on. These skills would be essential if I was ever to get out of here. Arthur stood by patiently. It was like he knew what I was talking about, or I was thinking about, and I'm sure he could hear the gears turning in my head. There were no words that needed to be spoken. He just watched quietly as I regained my composure, as my breath calmed down, as my lizard receded back into the recesses of my mind after a few minutes of crunching my crisps. I looked up. "So, Arthur," I said, where do you come from?" "Oh, me, sir?" he responded. "I am originally from Cameroon in West Africa." "But you're a frog," I said. "Yes, sir, I am a frog. I'm a Goliath frog, Concordia Goliath to be exact. I grew up in West Africa during the British occupation. Later, as I became an adult Goliath frog, I made my way to England, where I eventually happened to be employed at Oxford. Later, I petitioned and was accepted here at the University of Life." I sat there for a moment on the chair in the hallway with the frog. I had to regroup my thoughts. I was in this strange place, sitting, eating crisps with a frog. This was quite uncommon, as you can well imagine. After the experience in the Valley of the Masters, I knew this was serious stuff, though. Life-threatening stuff. I knew that I had to pay attention closely to these lessons. "Arthur," I said, "what is it that I'm here to learn anyway?" "Here, sir? Here at the university? What you are to learn here is a simple set of skills, relationship skills. Do you understand, sir?" I looked at the frog. He was so calm and matter-of-fact about all of this. Inside, I was still seething. Sir, you look shaken, sir. It looks as though you have seen the darker side of this world. The Valley of the Masters, perhaps?" "Yes. Well," Arthur continued, "the Valley of the Masters is a place that exists here. It is also a place that exists in your world as well. It is the embodiment of the antagonistic element you experience in most of your human relationships you will come across. It is also the embodiment of the powerful dynamic that exists inside of you. Our goal here is to teach you the skills to overcome this. The skills you will learn here will enable you to transverse all the dark valleys found in this world and in yours. The courses are not easy, and the path can be long, but the goal is to send our graduates out into their lives equipped with the skills and ability to pursue their core goals. You are in the freshman classes at this time, sir. The rest of your learning will take place outside the world, in the world that you come from, in your human world, that is. All things considered, sir, the lessons learned here will be among the greatest lessons of your life. So relax. The turtle is a great teacher. You will know all you will need to know before you leave, I assure you." I looked down at Arthur, at my crumpled course list in my dirty hand. The next class listed there was Communication 101. I looked up. Arthur looked back at me. "Down through the main hall, sir, classroom 104. Thank you, Arthur. I got up and walked down the hall. I arrived, sat down, and awaited the teacher. A few minutes later, the turtle walked into the room. Today, we are going to focus on communication, Alfred stated to the room. The first concept in this rich and deep subject is the concept of mirroring. He then pulled out a beautiful mirror out of the desk and held it up for all to see. This was an incredible mirror. It was similar to a dressing room mirror with a long handle adorned with diamonds and rubies and other gems too numerous to mention. The mirror was round, very clear and clean, and sparkled as the turtle held it up high. A typical mirror, he went on, is a sheet of glass that is coated on its back with aluminum or silver that produces images by reflection. When light falls on a body, some of the light may be reflected, some absorbed, and some transmitted through the body. In order for a smooth surface to act as a mirror, it must reflect as much of the light as possible and must transmit and absorb as little as possible. This, the turtle stated, is my mirror. It is a very nice mirror indeed, but I didn't quite know. So it was a very nice mirror indeed, and I didn't quite know what that had to do with Communication 101. The turtle went on. He walked over to me, sitting there in the front of the room, and handed it to me. And then he said, "Would you be so kind as to say something to the mirror, please?" "Sure," I said. "What is the secret of life?" Then the mirror talked back. I almost dropped it, but I caught myself at the last moment as a calm voice spoke out. "So you would like to know the meaning, what is the secret to life is?" I looked at the turtle, and he gestured to go on. "Tell it something about yourself. Tell it how you are feeling at this moment," he said. "I'm feeling kind of confused." The mirror said, "So you are feeling kind of confused. I hear that. Tell me more." I'm not sure if I'm getting all of this," I said to the mirror. The mirror responded, "Okay, I hear you are not sure you are getting all of this. Go on," it said. "I'm not sure that any of this is making any sense." And the mirror stated again, "So I hear you say that you are not sure that any of this is making a lot of sense. Did I get that right?" At that moment, Alfred touched the mirror, and it kind of went to sleep. I handed it back at his request, and he looked at me and said in a calm and assuring voice, "Is there anything else you would like to add to that?" I said no. He turned and walked back to the board in the front of the class. "What you have just witnessed is called mirroring. This," and he held the mirror, "is my mirror. You will be required to develop your own mirror. It is, I believe, the most useful tool you will ever have in your quest towards the biological dream, to get to know it and master it. So get to know it and master it. Mirroring provides a structure and a template for learning to connect with another person during conversation. It is a skill of making others feel heard. It consists of 4 distinct actions, and they are as follows." He held up his right hand and flickered with each finger as if counting 1, 2, 3. With each of the fingers he said the following: "Send, mirror, check, pull." The last 2 of these may be verbal or nonverbal, but must take place in order to shift from monological, which is talking to yourself, or monological, which is talking to yourself, to dialogical, which is talking to others. This, my friend, is called communication. My intention is to convey that there is a better way, a more convenient way to communicate. It is a way that makes the other person feel heard. I think this feeling heard thing is important. Alfred turned at that point and took out a chalk once again and proceeded to write on the board. He wrote in bold, thick letters the word "send." Then he turned and looked back across the room. I would now show you what the skill of mirroring is, its parts, and how to use them. This is a conversation between you and your partner. I repeat, a conversation between you and the partner you want to make feel heard. We will start with the send. This, the turtle continued, comes from the sender. It is the spoken words, and it must be a short, simple manner, clear and slow, so that the receiver can handle it. If it is too long, too quick, then the sender will be talking to themselves. So the first responsibility of the receiver is to slow down the sender. The conversation must proceed at the rate of speed of the slowest person present. The sender controls the subject, logic, and the meaning of words, and the order and the amount, but the skilled receiver controls the pace. Alfred turned again to the board. He then wrote the word mirror. Next, the receiver repeats back the words that were said exactly as they came out. This is important. Don't add anything except a possible check or pull for more information at the end of the responding sentence. Mirroring assists the receiver in focusing on the sender's words, not on the receiver's thoughts. It helps to clarify that the sender's words are coming from the sender's world only. It helps develop listening skills that are relaxing. Remember, if you react to anything your partner sends, you are allowing their words to penetrate your world, your boundaries. If you are analyzing or thinking about what your partner is saying, you are probably not listening. The receiver controls the length of sends and the speed only. Alfred turned again to the board, and he then wrote, check. Then he turned back and looked across the room. The check is a very brief event. It reaffirms the vital and fair communication concept that the sender is in control of what is said. It reaffirms that words are used, what order they are put in, and how much is said. The receiver is only in control of the speed of sending. Both of you will tend to feel safe with this shared control. This is accomplished with a little, did I get that right, or is that correct, at the end of the repeat response of the receiver. Alfred turned again to the board. He then wrote the word pull. The pull is a brief verbal or nonverbal invitation by the receiver to the sender to keep talking on the subject at hand only. This gesture ends the insult of interpretation. In the pull, you simply gesture that you would like to hear more, as in, please, tell me more. At that point, the turtle put down the chalk and gazed back across the room as if in search of a question. I took the moment to think, to reflect on what the turtle had just shown me. This was somewhat similar to the way I was speaking to the masters in the cave. You have a sender that states some information, keeping it short so the receiver can then mirror it back. This means they present it back to the sender exactly how they heard it. Then they check briefly to make sure that they heard it correctly. Then pull to get the sender to continue to talk about the subject, all the time staying only on the subject at hand. Alfred then began to speak once again. The goal of the receiver is to hear what the sender is saying without reacting. Remember this. Do this without reacting. The goal of the sender is to send their genuine truth without regard to the receiver's thoughts, beliefs, values, etc., while at the same time helping the receiver feel safe. See where boundaries come in? You will really use boundaries when you get into the thick of mirroring with your romantic partner, because a lot of what they say and will be sending will be about you. As you are in these mirroring moments, you will need all the boundaries you have to keep a clear head and not take responsibility or take these things personally. Because though they may be talking about you, it's really about them. It's coming from their universe, you see, from inside of their iceberg. It can only be about them, you see. Mirroring does not involve understanding. What it does do is lay the necessary groundwork and creates the habits of speaking with clarity and developing expert listening skills. Until you are good at these skills, you will need to practice them consistently, consciously, and verbally. Eventually, they will become automatic, and you will do most of them non-verbally. When you go back to your human world, you'll continue with this practice. Only with practice will you truly master the techniques presented here. Get your partner and take turns talking about real issues. Now, both partners should take turns sending and receiving. I recommend starting with 20 minutes 3 times a week. Senders should send and check only. Receivers should mirror and pull only. Practice sending and mirroring and not commenting on your partner's material is very important. If you step out of the process, catch yourselves and restart. This is called falling out of the canoe. We all do it. Climb back in. It takes 2 to paddle the communication canoe. Alfred paused for a moment. Take a look at the blackboard. Written there were the following. Alfred continued. Start by talking about these subjects. I looked up at the board and read the list to myself. Describe the cast of characters in your life to your partner. List your friends, potential friends, your rivals, competitors, and even your enemies. Identify at least 3 recent events that were very important to you. List at least 3 upcoming events that you are looking forward to. Identify current stresses in your life. List your current worries. Describe your hopes and aspirations for yourself and others. Alfred continued to speak. Watch for special words. Replace you, we, with I think that you, I think that we. Replace fact or know with I believe that, I recall that, I think that. Replace I feel that or I feel like with I think that. If a sender asks a question, it is often an attempt by the sender to control the subject of the receiver and vice versa. If this happens, mirror the question and then invite, that means pull, the questioner into stating why they are asking the question and what they plan to do with the information. The general rule of questions is that no one is entitled to an answer until they have shared what is behind their question. The learning tool of mirroring trains you in approximately 52 critical skills. These are all about getting heard on the one hand or making your partner feel heard on the other. I think this is a vital set of human relationship skills. How to listen effectively and how to speak effectively so that people can hear you. Most people raise their voices because they think people won't listen. Most people who talk fast do so because they think people will not listen. I've learned that listening effectively is a way that makes the other feel heard, will calm people and slow them down. So ask yourself, when you listen, do you understand? When you speak, do you get to feel understood? The skills of understanding, making a person feel understood, and speaking so that questions can be that someone can understand you come next. I want to explain about this and start you on your way. Now, this now begins with the topic of expert validation. The turtle paused for a moment. He still had his chalk in his hand and poised to either hold it high like a stick or use it to write something new on the blackboard. I sat waiting to see which way he would go. The mere mention of the word validation made me take notice. This was all about what the eagle had told me. It was in some way a big part of me getting out of the Valley of the Masters. Though I did not understand it completely, I did feel that I knew something about on this topic. I listened intently as the turtle once again continued with his lecture. About 50 years ago, I began to realize how important it was to Mrs. Turtle that she feel understood, that she feel validated. I wasn't even sure what validating really was. While I had learned the term in Imago relationship therapy, it still seemed to hit a hit and miss proposition. Sometimes, no matter what I did, my partner felt understood, and sometimes she felt misunderstood. What I was doing was not reliably successful. So I vowed to make myself an expert at validation, said the turtle. I had learned that experts were people and turtles who easily did what other people thought was difficult. I wanted to be such an expert. You know, as a little turtle, I played cello. Wasn't good. You see, I didn't practice enough. But I would watch my teacher, a great celloist, and saw how easy it was for her. When I asked how she got so good, how to make it simple the way that she did, she always said, practice, practice, practice. What I teach you, Alfred, if you practice, it will become easy for you as well. I got it that knowing the knowledge, the how-to, was only the starting place, but practice was what made it easy and a real part of my life. I learned that there were several different skills. I learned that understanding and validation are different. I could understand my partner, and she might still feel misunderstood. So I sharpened my definitions, my ideas of the right way to do it, until I was comfortable with them. I defined success, then I began to practice. That was many years ago. Now it is easy, and I believe I am an expert. Just take a look at my mirror. It is filled with gems of practice I have developed along the way. Believe me when I say it was really worth the effort. So first let me share what I have learned about what it is we are going to understand in each other. What is a person and what parts of them do they want to understand? What are the right ways to visualize the situation so I can go practice? This seems to have 2 parts. The first part involved who who are we, and how much do we know about ourselves? The second part deals with how do we go about understanding feelings and thoughts, what are often called our affective or our cognitive sides. Okay, the turtle said as he rubbed his stubby little hands together. Let's get up and go back out to the great north. We're going to revisit the icebergs. Now, that was a big walk, I thought to myself. It had already been a remarkably long day, and he wants me to walk all the way over to the icebergs again? I had little choice, it seemed. This was a class and I was a student, so I stood up, stretched a bit, and followed as the turtle, put on his cap and coat, and walked out the door. It took about the same amount of time as it did before. Through the cold tunnel with the flickering lights we went. After a while, we arrived at the other side, out into the bright Arctic sky and into the frozen world of the icebergs once again. The air was crisp, the sky blue. Once we were in position to view the icebergs, Alfred looked at me and began to speak. The majority of icebergs in the North Atlantic come from about 100 iceberg-producing glaciers along the Greenland coast. The glaciers of western Greenland, where 90% of Newfoundland's icebergs originate, are among the fastest moving in the world, up to 7 kilometers per year. The icebergs we see here are carried south in the cold Labrador Current. Glaciers form on land as a result of a large accumulation of snow over thousands of years. Successive layers compress earlier accumulations until at depths below 60 or 70 meters, glacier ice is formed. Glaciers flow or creep outward under their own weight as a viscous fluid. When the edge of a glacier advances into the ocean, the pieces that break off are what we call icebergs. The tip of the iceberg expression can be explained because icebergs float. The density of ice is lower than that of salt water that they find themselves in. The ratio of 3 densities tells us that 7/8 of the iceberg's mass must be below water. Usually icebergs are 20% to 30% longer under the water than above, and not quite as deep as they are long at the waterline. Now, the interior temperature of these icebergs you see here is 15 to 20 degrees above zero. Only at the surface does the temperature increase to 32 degrees, the melting point. Oddly, icebergs in warm water appear colder than those in cold water because the fast melting steepness of the internal temperature gradient exposes the cold interior. Now that you know all about icebergs, who do you think you are? He said as he gazed across the frozen world.